he was trying to tell with 40 Acres?
So even though you mentioned the opening sequence, which is a quite violent sequence, there's so many other themes in the film beyond that. So I really liked the way it talked about things like intergenerational trauma, how we build families, keeping safety. It was also a really deep film in terms of the themes about survival against white supremacy for Black and Indigenous people. So how do we protect land? The role of violence in that, the trauma that causes, the impact that has on all of us. And in particular, I really liked the focus on the Black matriarch as the center of the film and her kind of emotional journey as well to learning to trust. How do you open yourself to the world while keeping your family and yourself safe?
In this particular case, the Black matriarch played by Daniel Deadwyler, who just puts in an absolutely incredible shift in this movie. Jesse, over to you, pal. This is a story that has a lot of those themes running through it, but also it has to do another thing, which is it has to work as a thriller. Tell me about how you felt about it playing as a thriller as you were watching this movie.
Oh, I mean, first of all, I mean, as someone who still has battle scars from my time as a working film critic, when you're mostly assigned to see really bad movies and then have to talk about them, it's always a delight to see a great film and get
Hmm.
to talk about that. As a thriller, I think this accomplishes something that we don't often get, which is it keeps a fairly, it's not fairly, it keeps a very steady pitch of dread and suspense from moment one to the closing credits.
Hmm.
And you don't get that often. You know, usually films they let you off the hook.
Yeah.
And by you, I mean the audience. It lets the audience sort of a moment to breathe, to sort of refocus. This film, there's moments, but they're often interrupted. And and there's a looming dread or suspense over the whole thing that I think allows the audience to really live through the characters in a very real and authentic way. Yeah, absolutely loved this experience.
I would have liked to say that this movie, as a post-apocalyptic movie, the things start to go wrong when the teenage son, starts to sneak out be a teenager. But really, like things start to go wrong from the very beginning. Like we're sort of introduced to the stakes, as we said in that opening sequence of they are beset by forces trying to take their land. Al, I want to talk about the fact that like it's not just set in a dystopian Canadian future. 40 Acres is trying to also do some reminding of history that I think is like really difficult to do, right? So like the Freeman family here, their roots in this farmland, they go back to the 1850s, and specifically to the story of an African American ancestor who fled slavery to come to Canada, escaping from a Georgia slave plantation. Briefly, what do you think people should know about Canada, the real history of African American migration to Canada, before they watch a movie like this one?
Well, I'm speaking to you from Halifax, Jabuktuk, Nova Scotia, which is, of course, African Nova Scotians have been here for over 400 years, the first Black settlement and contact in Canada. So, of course, many people still don't realize the depth of Black contribution and land in this country. Similarly, in Alberta, which I think this very closely references, we had many farmers coming up from the US in the same time period, places like Amber Valley that have been settled by African American farmers. And then, of course, in Ontario, people are probably familiar with the Underground Railroad, I'm sure,
Hmm.
and those kind of settlements like Dawn that you still see that are very close to the state. So this history of liberated Black people attempting to find safety in Canada, but then also being met with white supremacy and violence. So I think part of the film is this meditation on, Canada's supposed to be this safe place for Black people, the end of the Underground Railroad. But we know that when Black people came here, as in Nova Scotia, there were race riots against Black people. We have suffered from white supremacist violence. And we've also integrated with Indigenous communities as well. So it really does pick up that history and encourage us to think about what it really means.
Yeah, the ability of the movie to sort of weave those two threads together very subtly by just saying like this is how long this history goes back, and also again you are confronted by that history of white supremacy literally in the opening shots of the movie itself. So 40 Acres star Danielle Deadwyler and Michael Grayaz are the parents in this movie. They're fighting to sort of survive and protect their farmland. I want you guys to hear this exchange between them and their son, who's played by Katim O'Connor.
You got no idea what these people are like out there.
Have you even tried talking to them?
Boy, who the hell you think you're talking to? You got a roof over your head, food in your belly while half the world's starving, and you got the nerve to complain about that? You see anybody around here offering us anything? It's because we don't need nothing and nobody.
That is a moment there from 40 Acres. Jesse, I mentioned that the story centers on a blended Black and Indigenous family. How did you feel about the ways that these histories and these two racialized identities, with entirely different relationships to the land, to colonialism, how do you feel like their relationship intersected as one family in this movie?
Oh, I thought it was really quite beautifully portrayed. It's, it feels like a film that was made for us by us in the most generous way I can say that, and that's because it's in the subtle things. It's in like the use of language. It's the foods they eat, which I thought was a really fantastic depiction there. No spoilers here, but like the three sisters are present in the film, meaning corned beans and squash, which I think is really an important
Mm.
thing. And I think, to back up sort of and continue with Elle's sort of thoughts, I mean, our histories as peoples are very much intertwined on these lands, both in terms of our experience of colonialism and our continued survival in the face of it and how we sort of resist and what that looks like.
Mhm.
And also our ability to form communities with one another through that shared experience that I think is in this movie. And it's so interesting, Elamin, when you talked about that when the sun goes out, that things would go wrong. In some ways, things start to go right
Mhm.
when the sun goes out.
Yes.
Because what happens is they brought in, because here in that clip, what we just heard was a sort of insular vision that's really the result of colonial pressures and violence that has made people like, we're here and we're not going to trust the outside.
Yeah.
And yet one of the things we see over the course of the film through the mother's character and her transformation is that the son wants to have a bigger community. And and at the heart of this film, and at the heart of a lot of post-apocalyptic films, because
Yeah.
really what the apocalypse they're imagining is the end of colonialism and capitalism,
Mhm.
is mostly what they are imagining is these systems, um, that that community is the thing that we will need to both survive this current moment, but also what will allow us to rebuild and build in the future. And what has been so present throughout it is that shared community. So I loved it in terms of the way they communicated. It all felt so real and lived in the best possible way. Yeah, absolutely. Thought they nailed that part of the story.
I think that the one thing that is like truly extraordinary for me as I watched this movie is I kept on thinking about Sinners, the movie that came out earlier this summer, Ryan Coogler, which is like it has to work on both levels, right? Like Sinners is both this incredible vampire movie and also this meditation on the theft of intellectual property and appropriation of music and tradition. And then this movie is also kind of doing the same kind of thing and kind of an incredible level. I was just saying like it works as a thriller, but also it works as this meditation on these themes and the ways that it pulls them both together. Elle, I think we lost you there for a moment, but I think you're back. I just want to actually just play, I want to play a clip real quick. This is a 40 Acres director, R.T. Thorne, explaining why he wanted to center a Black and Indigenous family in this film.
The two cultures that have experienced the most colonial trauma in the history are Black and Indigenous communities. I've just never seen that kind of a family on film before as heroes and have them actually be the most capable people in the film as opposed to being victims as they've been portrayed in the past.
Jesse, when you hear that clip, when you hear the thing that R.T. Thorne sort of wanted to pull off in this film, do you think he landed there? Do you think he sort of landed on this idea of I want to see these people as heroes, using the skills of survival that they have in order to make it through?
Yeah, landed, and all of the passengers on that plane have applauded, like sometimes they do. Elamin, if you've ever been on,
I
yeah,
have.
no, safely landed. I think I think that it's a home run in terms of that that aspect. And you talked about Sinners. I think it accomplishes exactly what Sinners does in terms of all of that being a very effective genre piece.
Yeah.
Like, because again, you're on edge with this movie from the moment it starts till the moment it ends. It doesn't let you go. And I think that's a great achievement. And it's a very deeply political, and my favorite movies, like I think of like Alien, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deeply political movie with a giant monster. I think of, you mentioned Ryan Coogler. I think of more domestically, Jeff Barnaby, who made Rhymes from Ghouls and Blood Quantum, deeply political films. Both of them function beautifully well as genre pieces. And I think as a piece of cinema, this is one of the more assured, like other than Jeff's Rhymes for Young Ghouls.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better Canadian debut film in recent memory. Like more audacious, more ambitious, and as well achieved as this one. Like this is just, it's a home run on all those levels.
I don't think you get much higher praise than that. I mean, like Jeff Barnaby's debut was one of those films that just sort of like makes you just kind of like sit up and listen. And I think I completely agree with you on this line. Elle, I think we have you back. Do we have you back, Elle?
Yeah, sorry. Apparently my computer is also in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And
Hey, listen, no
decided
trouble.
to be infested by white supremacy.
No,
So,
no.
sorry.
I'm glad that we got it out for now, and I'm glad that you're back. I'll ask you the same question. So a minute ago, I played this clip of R.T. Thorne, the director of this film, talking about how he had never seen Black and Indigenous heroes sort of represented in this way, and the ways that they approach survival centered in a story like this one. How did you feel about the way that Blackness and indigeneity sort of intersected in a movie like this one?
Yeah, I think it's extremely rare to see a portrayal of Black and Indigenous solidarity. And beyond some of the themes in the movie, I think part of what the movie is building is this multiracial coalition against whatever we want to call it, capitalism, resource extraction, climate change. It really does end up saying that we have to learn from each other. So, you know, Indigenous people's knowledge of the land, but also Black people's experience. So we see also how the mother has trained the family in particular ways. So these experiences we have of trauma also turn into experience of safety when we open up these possibilities to actually live and work together. So in that way, particularly at the end of the film, which I won't spoil, you know, you get this quite lovely message of, as much as we are met on all sides and we have to protect ourselves and defend the land, and sometimes that's violent, on the other end is this different kind of possibility, and that we have to also learn to open ourselves up to that together. So there is this quite beautiful message.
I do think that one of the things that the movie does so well is, like, again, like this idea of like the post-apocalyptic world and coalition building in that world looks different if you're not about protecting resources. What does that look like? And then sort of asks bravely, I think, asks that question and then actually dares to answer it. Jesse, we've talked recently on the show about the struggle that indie Canadian filmmakers have, just in terms of like getting their movies made, but then actually getting the movies actually seen. With like maybe a minute that we have left here, this is a debut, right? From R.T. Thorne. So 40 Acres is trying to, you know, it just began its theatrical run. What are some of the things that you're keeping an eye on as you sort of watch for this movie to maybe take up a bit more space in Canadian film?
I mean, I'm eager to see the attention it gets everywhere and how it sort of is handled. I think this is a film that has a very long tail, meaning people will discover this film for years to come because it speaks so perfectly to this moment and every moment that we're going to live for the foreseeable future. And so I think I would look for, you know, you don't ever want to say you look for like American attention, but in this industry, it would be interesting to see how it plays elsewhere. I think it'll travel exceptionally well. Like I think when you work in genre and you do it as well as they've done it here, it will play globally. And so I look for fans to discover this. I look for sharing this with my kids, and my wife won't watch it with us, but we'll have to explain it to her gently because it's a little too gory for her. But the kids and I are gonna have a blast when we watch this.
Well, I appreciate both of your thoughts, Elle. I'm glad that we got you back, and I really just appreciate both of your time.
I'll say very quickly that it also picks up themes that we've had with like Kendrick and Drake and Beyonce around Blackness, how we relate to the nation, Black Americanism versus Black Canadianism. We don't have time to get into it, but those are also themes that we can think about.
Yeah, I mean, like the idea that like what this movie is trying to do is it's so incredibly ambitious that for a moment you actually kind of go like, wow, it's engaging me on all these different theses just as you're watching a thriller unfold in front of you, and have a great time. It is not an easy thing to pull off. I highly just recommend that people go see this film. I appreciate both of your time. Thank you so much for being here, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, of
Take
course.
care.
Thank you. Elle Jones is a poet and assistant professor in the Department of Politics at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax. Jesse Wente is currently storyteller in residence at Toronto Metropolitan University. And while he was not speaking to us in that capacity, he's also the chair of the Canada Council for the Arts. 40 Acres is in theaters right now across the country.
I'm done hiding now, I'm shining like I'm born to be. We dreaming hard, we came so far now, I believe we're
I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. Look, I have an 8-year-old, so that means if you walk into my house right now, there's a very high probability that you're going to hear this very specific song. That's Golden from Netflix's animated film, K-Pop Demon Hunters. Clearly not just my kid who loves it, because the soundtrack for this movie is number 3 on the Billboard charts. I should mention also the movie's co-writer and co-director Maggie Kang is Canadian. Michelle Cho is here to talk about this movie. Michelle, what's good, friend? How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm happy to have you here. I'm glad that we're both dancing as we were listening to that. Listen, I heard that before you watched this movie, you were maybe like a bit apprehensive about it. Tell me about what was going on there.
Yes. I could safely say I was worried.
Okay.
I mean, so this is very clearly a cultural mashup. You know, you have the combination comes through in the name, K-pop Demon Hunters, courtesy of Sony Animation. So you've got K-pop anime and this kind of like American style of 3D animation. Like we know that's pioneered by Pixar, and it looks very different than, you know, what we think of as this typical 2D anime and manga style. So all of these have like distinct histories, fandoms, like legacies, sensibilities.
Yeah.
So I was just worried, how are they going to make it gel? And especially when it comes to like K-pop, which I have strong investments in, K-content in general. You know, this is a type of like media content and fandom it focuses on like stage performance, music, and this very specific like fan culture. It's a fan culture. It's driven by parasocial relationships, or centered on pop idols. It's usually not taken seriously by the general public, or there are all these concerns about its dark side. So I was really worried that basically it would be this like kind of awkward mashup, and also that it might parody K-pop.
Or parody the wrong things, you know, like that was kind of my thought. My worry was like saying, there's a lot that this movie could get wrong, and if it gets one thing wrong, it could really fall down. But then you watched it, and there's a smile on your face. Tell me what you thought when you finally watched it.
I mean, I think that I'm not the only one. I was just dazzled, you know? It's like so fun and engaging. It has this amazing like opening. And I think that this is why it's really, in my view, the hit of the summer and this kind of sleeper hit, because no one was expecting it, and and I think people went into it with some hesitation, and it just delivered. I mean, it handles all of its various inspirations so respectfully. There's a very clear kind of fan love that's expressed. And it's very sincere in that. It really works, and it takes all of its reference points very seriously, but it's also a super fun movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's like, this is not just an American studio's take on K-pop. It's actually this like amazing collaboration between super, super skilled visual storytellers and hit makers in K-pop.
They went to people in the world of K-pop, and they were involved in the making of this film. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So it's like the real deal.
Yeah, it's not even the work of low expectations. It's the work of like, this is really difficult work to do, because like these are worlds that have kind of existed separately. So to try to bring them together in general, this seamlessly and this genuinely, felt like a really tall ask. Maybe you can you try to do the plot in like maybe 30 seconds or so, because I feel like there's so much to talk about, but also we should kind of ground people in the plot there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a high concept K-pop Demon Hunters. So it's a movie about a K-pop group whose members are like pop superstars, but also guardians of humanity. So they protect the earth from demons by bringing people together through their music. And all this is going great until the Demon King decides to send up a demon boy band to compete with them and steal their fans. So that's it in a nutshell.
First of all, perfect summary. Second of all, the words demon boy band just are perfectly evocative. But also, this is a movie that like I think is trying to do a lot when it comes to conversations about fandom in K-pop. And sort of like try to say, hey, fandom can sort of look like this or look like this. And kind of not necessarily pit them against each other, but also just say, we got to highlight these differences, because sometimes fandom can go to a different direction that maybe we don't necessarily want. Tell me about how this movie sort of explores fandom.
I think that's one of the elements I was most impressed by. It's such a like great representation of how complex fandom is. You get a lot of conversation about the dark sides or the cringy aspects of fandom, but this film is actually really interested in exploring how positive and like pro-social, and how coming together in a group to celebrate something that makes everyone see the best parts of themselves and want to bring that forward is a wonderful thing. And that's what K-pop, or that's what fandom can do.
And that's
in
what we see in
general.
Huntrix, which is like those are the good guys
Exactly.
in this, as opposed to
Right.
the Saja boys who are trying to do something
The
a little
Sa-
different. They're
Precisely.
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the Saja Boys kind of represent more of the kind of problematic aspects of an escapist form of fandom that's really more united around maybe like antipathy or like antagonism against something that you don't like, or a kind of obsessive focus on just the celebrity and not thinking about what your fandom is doing in the world.
Here being made literally demon boy band, like represented
Exactly.
as a demon boy band. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah. And so then when you come together in a large collective around something that you're kind of defining yourself against, we know that that's very powerful. And, like the haterade can be fuel, but also ultimately that's super destructive because it's usually rooted in shame and insecurity. So that's really what's at the heart of this film, is like trying to show us that, it's not fandom that's the problem. It's the type of fandom that is motivating certain aspects of a person to come forward or not. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think just to slightly connected to the movie we were just talking about a minute ago, 40 Acres, is like it has to work on several levels, right? Which is like this is a highly entertaining movie that is also a bit of a treatise on the ways that fandom can get extractive and really negative, and a little bit dark, versus like what does it mean if that fandom is entirely celebratory, and how do you turn someone who's on that one path into the other path? Also, the music is just great. Can you just tell me about because you're a K-pop fan, you've talked a lot on the show about K-pop. Tell me about how these songs work as K-pop songs.
Oh my gosh. I mean, they are so good at advancing the story. So this is a musical, by the way, guys. So, I mean, some people might like hear that and say like, no, but the music all works so well narratively, but these are K-pop hits. I mean, the chart performance speaks to that. I want to shout out Kim Eun-jae, who goes by her stage name EJ, who is the amazing, amazing voice that you heard in that clip of Golden earlier. She is the voice of Rumi, our protagonist, when she's singing. Arden Cho does the voice acting for the other parts. But she herself is a former K-pop trainee who decided to go into the making of K-pop hits. So she's this talented songwriter and vocalist. She's responsible for some incredible K-pop earworms, including Red Velvet's platinum single Psycho, aespa's Drama, and Armageddon. She has writing credits on Golden, How It's Done, and Your Idol, which all happen to be in the Billboard Top 40 right now. And so she is she is from the industry, and she uses all her skills to help like bring this movie together. There are other folks from the industry who worked on this. The vocalist Kevin Wu from U-Kiss, who's one of the vocalists in the Saja Boys, and also like mega producer Teddy Park, who is responsible for Blackpink, by the way, their sound.
So when you look at the charts right now and see that 7 of the top 100 songs are from this movie, you should not be surprised, because in addition to being very good in the movie, they're just excellent, excellent songs. Who knew Song of the Summer would come out of K-pop Demon Hunters? Michelle, I really appreciate your time, friend. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for letting me talk about this amazing movie that I love so much.
Literally anytime. Michelle Cho is a professor with the Department of East Asian Studies at the University of Toronto. She's a regular here on Commotion. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch that movie. K-pop Demon Hunters is streaming on Netflix now. I'm Elamin. This is Commotion. See you tomorrow.